Hi, my name's Mark, one of the pastors at Trillium. Over the next few weeks, we're going to use car care, car maintenance, as an analogy for spiritual care, for spiritual maintenance, for the maintenance of faith. In the same way that a car needs to be maintained, so does our faith need to be maintained. And we buy that brand spanking car or SUV or truck, and it's tempting to think that the story's over, but actually it's just beginning. Without quality, effective maintenance, that vehicle is going to degrade very quickly. It's the same for our faith. We can come to a faith, we can have an awakening, an insight, and yet if we don't maintain our faith, it will begin to bring in the contaminants and pollutants of the world and become degraded over time. They say that the most important aspect of car maintenance is changing our oil. Every 5,000 kilometers or so, we're supposed to change the oil out. Why? Because oil has contaminants, pollutants that come in through the whole process of combustion. You know, the engine goes up and down, the pollutants come in, particles to begin to develop, and it causes the oil to be less effective in what it was supposed to do, protect the engine from itself. And also, the engine is undergoing incredible heat and pressure, and this also produces a degrading element to the oil. So every 5,000 kilometers or so, you're supposed to change the oil out, take the old oil out, put new oil in, and take the oil filter and replace it. I was one time bringing my own vehicle in for maintenance, and I put it in the back lot where we're supposed to park the car. And I saw my mechanic out there in the lot, and I went over to see him, and he was looking at an old Honda Civic in mint condition. And he told me that this Honda Civic was owned by a young person. Their parents had bought them this car as a gift. But this young person didn't understand that the oil needed to be changed. They didn't know anything about that at all. So they drove the car for a year, 15 months, and they never changed the oil. And even when the oil light came on the dashboard, they didn't understand what the signal meant, and they kept driving. And of course, not long afterwards, the engine seized. And now this car was essentially worthless. It was still in excellent condition, but it had no engine. And there was no point putting a new engine into it, such an old vehicle. And it was what a tragic lesson to learn in life. What a hard lesson. Now, I understand how this could happen. Sometimes in life, people think you know things. They expect you to know things you don't know. Maybe the backstory of maintenance never happened to this person. They just didn't understand the kind of maintenance needs that occur when you own a vehicle. And so this tragedy, in a sense, unfolds. A hard lesson, as they say, to learn in life. There are lots of hard lessons to learn in life. You know, the disciples in the Gospel of Mark, they've journeyed with Jesus for quite a long time. They've seen him teach and heard his teachings over and over again. They've seen him do miracles of healing with people. They've seen him walk on water. They've seen him take just a few loaves and a few fish and feed not just one large crowd, but two. And just right after the second feeding, they call it the feeding of the 4,000, there the disciples are crossing back on the boat across the Sea of Galilee, and they only have one loaf of bread. That's for 13 of them. Only one loaf of bread. That means they've forgotten the food. Someone forgot the food. Someone didn't bring the food along in the commotion, and they're wondering how they're going to sustain themselves. Then Jesus looks at them. What? After all this, after all you've seen, you still don't get it. See, they're looped into a certain kind of thinking. They've been living off the this oil for a long time. The oil has still not been changed in them. They're still in the same thinking patterns, the same patterns of unbelief in their life. And nothing has really changed for them. In the midst of all these mighty acts and the wonderful teachings of Jesus, it's had no impact on them. They're still the same. They need an oil change. And I'm wondering for you and me, are there things circulating in our lives? Are we stuck in it in some way? Are we caught in the loop of patterns of thinking or belief or behavior that we don't seem to be able to break free of? You know, the hardest patterns are the ones that we don't even recognize to break free of. They're just there. And we can see them easily in other people, but to recognize them in ourselves is so tough. That's why we need community, like real koinonia, a place of investment where people are authentic and real with each other, where there's an integrity and honesty in the interactions we have with each other. And when there's a confidence and love that when people are giving each other feedback, they're doing it out of desire to bless, not to curse or hurt. And to recognize also that when God moves in our lives, God has a desire to bless us, and God to enrich us, to overflow us with goodness in life. And therefore we can trust even in God's scrutiny in us. We need an oil change, all of us, in spirit and mind and behavior. And I think where we experience that is those moments of kenosis, what the Bible calls an emptying out of ourselves. This comes in often very hard places, very, very challenging, demanding places where we are poured out. But it's always, these events always happen in life with the understanding that there's actually a desire to have new oil, new spirit, new mind, new behavior enter into us. It means in those hard moments of kenosis, we especially need to be reading the scriptures over and over again, meditating on them, thinking about them, letting them fill up our mind with a new thought, a new understanding. In those moments, we need to pray ever more vigorously so that we can be connected with our Creator and to learn how to trust that the goodness of God is moving through us to bless. And when these moments happen, when the oil is being changed out of us, when one spirit, one approach to life, one pattern of life is being essentially emptied out and another one is coming in, when those moments happen, there is an immense gift given to us. And even if it doesn't feel particularly comfortable in the moment, when the oil is being changed, it is a good thing.